Hi, I'm Mitch.
And I'm Ashley.
Today we're going to be reviewing The Fall of the House of Usher.
No spoilers.
Well, not any more than the trailer showed anyway.
The Fall of the House of Usher is a horror anthology based on works by Edgar Allan Poe. It's a mini-series that reimagines Poe's short stories with a modern backdrop. The Ushers are a wealthy family whose patriarch, Roderick Usher, is the CEO of a corrupt pharmaceutical company. Each of the 9 episodes follows the death of one of the family members while leading us through a different one of Poe's tales.
This anthology is another miniseries directed by Mike Flanagan and released on Netflix. Flanagan is also known for The Haunting of Hill House, which I often call Haunting of House Hill, The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Midnight Club, and of course Midnight Mass, all of which were also released on Netflix. Flanagan has become a well-known name for his work on horror films and shows over the past decade. His works are well known for ensemble casts and his lengthy trademark monologues. With The Fall of the House of Usher, Flanagan's experience with the horror genre definitely starts to show through.
Yeah, I really love that it's a Poe anthology. So I was super excited for this to come out. And I was actually excited for Flanagan to be the one to do it. I was like a macabre little child. And I grew up reading Edgar Allan Poe stories. I was like pretty obsessed. I was like,
You're a weird kid.
Yeah, I was a weird kid. So I still, as an adult, feel really attached to them as like part of my childhood. And one of the things that Flanagan does really well here is hide Poe references. I don't want to talk about too many of them because they'll give away aspects of the storyline, but a few we can talk about are that basically every character is named off of a Poe reference of some kind. Which is pretty cool because I think it takes like a pretty big fan to recognize all of them right away. But then the more you hear some of them, the more you'll remember like, oh, is that part of this story?
I have a bunch of questions now. Yeah.
Yeah. The patriarch, Roderick, is drinking cognac kind of like throughout the series. And that is likely a reference to this masked man that would leave 3 roses and a bottle of cognac on Poe's grave every year, and they never found out who it was. So stuff like this makes the series really special. And there are people online that have gone through, like if you search on Reddit, or there have been some articles written about like all the different references that people can find in the show.
It's a lot of dedication, more than I have.
Yeah.
I came into this really liking Flanagan, but feeling like a lot of his shows and movies kind of missed something for me. I definitely don't feel that way this time. The way he told each individual Poe story while also weaving into the overarching Usher storyline, I thought was brilliant. This is definitely my favorite thing that he has done. It totally blew me away.
I think that's actually an uncommon opinion. I think,
Really?
Yeah. I think from what I was reading, it's a little bit unusual for this to be like the
Your
favorite.
favorite Flanagan?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
most people go to Haunting of Hill House, but before this, actually, I wasn't like the most massive Flanagan fan. Part of why I didn't like Hill House as much as I like this one is that I am not like really into the big monologues. They could be incredibly eloquently written, well acted, relevant to the story, but like for me, my attention span is not necessarily like long enough sometimes to like get through. And the other piece that I haven't loved is kind of like the layers of like deep familial trauma that come along with some of his other work. I end up kind of leaving feeling a little sad, more than like horrified. But this series kind of like centers the horror a little bit more. And for me, I really appreciated that. I really liked it.
And yet there is still like a huge underlying like familial trauma element to it,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it's done in such a way that like I feel more, it feels more pure horror to me, even though
Yeah.
it still has those drama elements.
Right.
I felt like some of his previous work kind of leaned too heavily into the drama and not enough into the horror. I mean, there were moments that were very horrific. Like I remember in particular in Midnight Mass, there were some moments particularly towards the end that were like, it was horror, 100%. But like the whole story ended up like kind of getting bogged down in some drama that like I don't typically attach to as much. I thought that was going to happen this season. I saw the first episode. I was kind of like a little tepid about it. The end of the second episode, really, and by the beginning of the third episode, I was completely hooked.
Yeah.
And I think that it did a really beautiful job of having like some slow moments that are telling the story and not kind of getting lost in it while create the necessary backdrop to have those really punchy moments. You don't
Yeah.
want it to be all action all the time, but this build up to a way that by the end, when there was a lot going on, you feel like you kind of earned it,
Yeah.
and I was 100% there for it.
Yeah.
I thought it was also kind of interesting that like you and I are super big horror fans. Like
Yeah.
I've got my alien shirt on. I'm wearing like pentagram rings. Like we watch horror almost every night or every other night.
Yeah.
And we loved it. Then also like my parents who are a little bit more theatrical. My dad loves like Shakespeare and stuff. He and my mom are like super into this right now, and my mom wants to watch it a little bit faster than he does because he's like savoring every moment of it. That's how you know he likes something. Like, yeah, they're definitely in it.
Yeah. And my mom is similar. So I actually talked to her on the phone yesterday and I was like, hey, have you seen? She was like telling me about some stuff she'd been watching. And I was like, maybe you might like Fall of the House of Usher. Like, have you started watching that at all? And she hadn't yet. And then today she texted me and told me how thankful she was for the recommendation. She's normally more of like a Lifetime Hallmark movie kind of feel good person, but she also likes a really good character driven story. And she isn't normally super into horror, so I was a little bit hesitant to even suggesting it to
She
her.
hates horror most of the time.
Yeah, she does. But her literal words about this anthology to me were, I'm hooked. So she's in. She absolutely loves it.
Yeah, I feel like it really gets like a big cross section of people.
Yeah.
I think it is like the show kind of did it, I think, better than a lot of other Flanagan pieces. It did an excellent job of tying together the horror, the drama. There's definitely humor in there. You can see some of that in the trailer. It's a dry humor, but it's there, and yet none of that drama or horror or humor really takes away from the effective horror payouts.
Yeah.
Every single episode had, especially towards the end, it was just like is punching like left and right.
I have to mention, while we're talking about this, how cool the deaths are in this. So every episode, someone else dies, like someone new dies, and they all die in completely different ways. All of them feel very appropriate to the character that's been built and the storyline for that individual person. And they're just like very unique, very horrifying. There are certain ones that made me cringe. And I watch a lot of horror, but there's definitely, like, there's some gore, there's some gruesome deaths in this that are really, really cool. And even on certain episodes, I think almost all of them, you find out pretty early in the episode who's going to die. There's like a foreshadowing where you see that person, and you might think that that would take away from, like, the suspense that builds towards their death. But it actually doesn't at all. If anything, it builds the suspense because you're wondering, like, when is it going to happen? Who's going to be involved? Like, how is this going to come about? And that is, like, very suspenseful in and of itself. So I thought, just, like, as a horror fan, very cool to watch these, like, different kind of deaths for the different characters.
You saying that actually reminded me of something, too. And there's this, like, this element of time jumping throughout the story that feels natural in such a way. And specifically the hints at who's going to die, like tons of time jumping. It always feels cohesive. It always feels in a way linear, which I think is like masterfully done.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think actually like along with that, there's something I didn't think of before, but it's basically like, I think you get as much out of this as you want in the sense that like your dad is taking a very cool approach to this where he's watching other media about the same Poe story before he's watching the episode, or he's reading the Poe story before he watches the episode.
He wants like a contrast.
Yeah. And he's like digging in, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably noticing a ton of the different references and a lot of that sticking out to him. On the other hand, if you've never read anything Poe related, if you've never seen anything, you barely even know who Edgar Allan Poe is, you're going to be fine. It's still a very cool, very good series to watch. Like, you're not going to be losing a whole lot. It
stands alone.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, which is cool. Then you can like dig in as much as you want to dig in, you know?
Yeah. It's great. It's like you said, it's like you choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, overall thoughts?
I kind of want to watch it a second time. Maybe even before. Like, I think we probably will. And that's the first time I've said that about any of Flanagan's work. Like, I do like him, but like this is like for me kind of next level.
Yeah.
And I want to see some more of those references. I would recommend it to pretty much anybody, unless you really can't take some gore. Like, because there's definitely some in here.
Yeah.
But it's a excellent horror series. One of the best I've seen.
I agree. I really love it. And like, again, I said before, but like controversial opinion, but this is definitely my favorite Flanagan series. I really, really liked it. I think it's really well done. It's like shocking to me sometimes that this stuff is on Netflix. Like,
Yeah, this is good Netflix.
yeah, it's
is what
good
this
Netflix.
Is.
Yeah. And definitely a cool way to spend like part of the month of October as we like lead up to Halloween.
Yes, it's a perfect release time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Yep. So yeah, go watch it, honestly.
Yeah. Tell us what you think about it.
Yeah. I'm interested to see like what people that, you know, really know a lot about Poe have like identified within the series and kind of what different people have to say about it. Cause I just feel like it's so multi-layered. Like you could probably talk about it all day if, you know, got the right people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, give us a like or subscribe if you want to see more.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Go watch the show.
Bye.
I'm in my loon sweater.
And then I got it knocked, and I started going,
Hey, we're gonna go on a cruise this summer. You should come with us.